Hello everyone, welcome back to Data Speaks. In this part 3 video of binary classification machine learning project in the bank marketing dataset, where we have aimed to predict either customer will subscribe to the term deposit or not. We have a dataset that has been downloaded from Kaggle. And in previous two videos, we have gone through in the step of importing necessary libraries and modules for this project. And also we have loaded the dataset, looked at the first few rows of the dataset, looked at a couple of data overview steps, including looking at the shape, rows and columns of the dataset, looking at the columns of the data, information about the data. How many rows are there? How many columns are there in the data set? What type of column values are there in the data? And if we have any missing values in the data set. We looked at the statistical description of the numerical columns, so statistical description of categorical column. We have had a good understanding of the basics of the data set. In this video, we will perform the basic data cleaning, data preprocessing that begins with cleaning up column values. Let's look at how does our original column values look like in the data. Look at this here. The age column, job column, marital column, and education look standard, but look at default, all lowercase and spaces in the beginning and at the end. But that is not the case with education, marital, job, and age. Also, we have a problem with other column values, including day, that has space in the beginning. We have also the problem with p space days, that also a not standardized column value. Same way, we need to make sure that all the column values are standardized and cleaned up and they're ready for the machine learning model. To do that, we will perform some data cleaning, and we'll do that by saying df.columns. I want to have the columns that are stripped spaces from the beginning and from the end of the column names. Also, we will lowercase all the column names, replace the spaces with underscore, and all of that happens in the single step. Now let's look at the original columns and the cleaned up column. Look at the values here. Original column all over the place, and they're not very standardized. Now, once we have cleaned up the column values, they look much more nicer, standardized, and cleaned up and ready for the next step. So now the next step is going to be checking the target variable. I want to ensure that we have the target variable assigned to perform the binary classification. I want to check if y is not in my columns. I want to say expected target column y not found. Please check the dataset columns. If I do have a target column, then I want to count the unique values on each of those category, label 0 and label 1. Then I want to convert that also in the percentage format. If I would normalize that and make it multiplied by 100%, then that will give me the percentage distribution of the target 0 and target 1. So I will look at that into the data frame structure, into the organized table, so that it gives me much more organized view of the count and the percentage. The label 0 we have for 88%, and then we have yes for almost 12%. So that makes up to the 100%, and these are the count. Looks like our data set has imbalanced label problem. So we will look at that later part, but right now at least we have a good understanding of the column values or the target column values. We can quickly visualize the same information and visually understand that. Look at the imbalance of the label distribution. So most of the records we have for the customers who have not subscribed for the term deposit, but we have just a few customers, barely 12%, that have subscribed for the term deposit. We want to now predict if the next future customer will subscribe for the term deposit or not. Now, once we have understood those target value distribution, let's quickly have a look at the missing value. We already know that there is no missing value, but what's wrong with double checking? Here, I will check the missing values. I will call df.isNull.sum. I want to sort the values from highest to lowest. And then here, missing value percentage, if there is any. But looks like we don't have any missing value, so that will not display any results there. I will also want to check if there is any value in any of the column where the data type is object, where it has unknowns or unknown ultimately is missing value. So I want to check that as well, and happens that we don't have any column values which has the value unknown. So save there. Now let's do the final check, that is duplicate check. I want to make sure that I want to remove all the duplicate values that are in the data set. So I want to first of all create the duplicate count that has df.duplicated.sum, and it will give me the duplicate count. So if there is any duplicate values, that will check if duplicate count is greater than 0, then it will give me the count and the shape of the duplicates. Otherwise it will say no duplicates found. So I'll run that and look at this here. We have no duplicate records as well, which is great. So the next step and the last step before diving into exploratory data analysis is identifying the numerical and categorical column. So here we know that our target column, target is the Y. So if you quickly look at our df.head 2 rows, just 2 rows for now, and we have a target column Y here. I'm calling that to be target equals Y. And here I want to call numerical columns. So I want to identify what are my numerical columns. So I want to detect, or I want to find out if the column data type is integer or float, then that's going to be the numerical column. I want to convert that columns to be into the list. Same way for the categorical columns. So if the data type of the column is object, then I want to find that out, and I want to create the list of the columns. And also I want to ensure that in the features or independent variables, the target column is not included, so that I want to remove if the target column is in the categorical column list, I want to remove that. And finally, I want to print all of those numerical columns, categorical columns, and target column, or the predictive variable that we want to predict. So here we got target column Y and the numerical columns and the categorical columns, so that we can pre-process the data accordingly and prepare for the machine learning model. We need to ensure that we have identified those numerical and categorical columns and the target column. So in the next video, we will dive super in depth into exploratory data analysis, where we will dive into the numerical features and categorical features one by one, and we'll build a strong understanding about the data before we dive into the machine learning model building. So thank you for watching this video until the last. If you have not already subscribed to my YouTube channel Data Speaks, please subscribe and hit that like button, and please stay tuned for the next video, and that is in my YouTube channel. Please do not forget to check that. Until then, please enjoy learning.